Hi everyone, it's Caryn Zinn here, the dietitian, coming to you this evening about fasting. So 3 things that I'd like to mention this evening. And the 3 things that I'm going to talk about is firstly, why people fast. The second thing I'm going to talk about is the different types of fasting. And then the third thing that I'm going to end on is fasting experiences during the lockdown and whether or not and in what capacity this is you or not. Okay, so to start off, fasting can also be referred to as eating in compressed eating windows, or also as TRF, or time restricted feeding. Why do people fast? Well, fasting goes right back to the Bible, and actually it's mentioned countless times in the Bible. So the original reason why people undertook fasting was for spiritual or mental reasons, and this was seen to be very, very cleansing. And there must have been some kind of physiological or metabolic advantage to this as well, because throughout the ages, fasting has continued as a practice. And certainly in modern times, fasting is now well researched. Well, it's not as well researched as it could be, and it will be in several years to come. But there's a lot more research around the physiological and metabolic benefits of fasting, going from short-term intermittent fasting right through to more advanced fasting. So people fast for spiritual or mental reasons, and again, even today, you've still got certain times or periods of the year, like Ramadan, or in the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur is a 24-hour fast. So there are times where the spiritual connection is maintained. From a physiological perspective, people are fasting more and more now. Reasons for people to fast include establishing, achieving and maintaining physiological benefit around the following things. So it can be very, very useful to either maintain your weight or to lose weight. It can be incredibly useful to manage your blood sugar, and it can also be very useful, as I have mentioned previously, to boost your immune system, to tap into autophagy and stem cell regeneration, and also improve inflammation. And people can use it for both prevention and management of cancer and cancer therapies. So there's a range of reasons why people fast. That's number 1. Number 2, different types of fasting. So you can really divide fasting into 2 main categories. The first one would be your intermittent fasting. So it's when you do a little bit every now and again more regularly. So that can be divided or classified into various different systems or regimes of fasting, right from the original 5-2, which was put on the map by Michael Mosley. And that refers to 2 days of the week where you might miss a meal such as breakfast, or you might even decide to have way less calories or eat way less on that day, and decide on your own restriction of that time period where you don't eat. 5-2 is very common. So 16-8, which is another time guideline. So 16 hours of not eating and eating within that 8-hour window. That is something that is very popular as well. And that really also refers to, or can refer to, missing the breakfast meal. And the reason why we talk about missing a breakfast meal is because it tends to be the one that is easier to miss, because dinner we're typically eating with our families, or in a more sort of social circumstance, and it might interfere with family dynamics if you choose to not eat your dinner. But of course, some people who live alone might decide that not eating dinner would be a better way to do it, and eating a kind of biggish, high quality breakfast to account for all your nutrients. Hi Jazz, I haven't heard of the steak diet. 48 to 72 hour fast, continuously rolling. It's basically extended fasting, low carb refeeds. Okay, now I haven't heard of that, but potentially we might just park that until we move into advanced fasting, because I'm sure there'll be some benefit there. Not sure I like the name of the snake diet, but hopefully it's sort of insinuating that there's this snake-like continuity. I can only hope that's what it is anyway. So we've got 5-2, we've got 16-8, we've got OMD, not OMG, it's OMD, which is 1 meal a day. Or fasting for 24 hours, and that can be particularly useful and still considered to be intermittent. It's something you can do more frequently throughout your weeks or your months. Alternate day fasting is another one, and also super fasting is one which myself and my colleagues coined when we wrote the book What the Fast. And this system is when you actually do 2 lots of 1 meal a day fasting in a row. So 2 lots of 24-hour days worth of fasting where you have your dinner meal only. And the rest of the time, let's say you do it on a Monday and a Tuesday, and the rest of the time, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you eat low carb, whole food, and then on the weekend you might kind of take your foot off the brake a little bit and deviate and have a treat here and there. But the beauty about super fasting is for those people who want to get into a state of nutritional ketosis, it helps you establish that state and almost cycle in and out of that ketotic state. For those of you who are in keto fully all the time, you will know that it's quite a challenge to keep up being in nutritional ketosis constantly. So by super fasting, for being in, you sort of cycle in and out of ketosis at the beginning to the end of the week, and can be very useful for people. Okay, the second type of fasting is advanced fasting. So here we're now talking about your anything from, I'd say, 48 hours and beyond, which would be considered advanced fasting. So let me just explain to you quickly. Intermittent fasting would be something which you would do for you could do intermittent fasting if you have a little bit of weight to lose or a lot of weight to lose. You can do it in both situations. You could do it if you want to see good outcomes in your blood sugar management. When you tap into advanced fasting, the outcomes you are looking for there might be in addition to if you have a lot of body fat to lose or excess body fat, that is, and blood sugar control, but it's more so to tap into those advanced metabolic benefits from fasting, which is that stem cell regeneration. It is giving your immune system a bit of an overhaul and a reboost, and getting some quite profound ketone or anti-inflammatory signaling going on in your body. So it is called advanced fasting for a reason. And I would really recommend that for anyone who's going to go into advanced fasting, just to do their homework and to read up a lot. Yes, and autophagy as well, which is some advanced level of self-repair. People need to be very well informed before they get into some advanced fasting, because your electrolyte balance becomes incredibly important during this time, and you need to know what you are doing in order to get the benefits or the most out of this. Okay, point number 3, fasting during lockdown. Okay, so look, I'll have to say, fasting can be your best friend or your worst enemy during lockdown. Or can be your best friend and your worst enemy at any time of life, but particularly during lockdown, where our emotions and our stress levels are slightly or enormously heightened, and everyone's got a different level that they're sitting at. So like everything in nutrition, I'll have to say that there's not just one system or one set of advice that works for everyone. So I've got some clients that find that during this time, they just can't face it. Despite their weight loss goals, their blood sugar controls, they just need, for whatever reason, the comfort of eating. And eating is a comfort. What we need to be careful of is that we make sure that we eat good quality foods. We still get comfort from eating good quality foods. So if fasting is just too much for your brain capacity or your stress levels, let it go. leave it. We're not going to be in lockdown forever. And the reality is there's plenty of time to get into this. So it might be for some people, just leave it. And if you have weight-related goals, it might be that you aim for a weight maintenance during this time, or you work on the other things that can really affect weight loss. So, for example, just watching your overall food intake, but probably more importantly, is taking the extra time. If you've got the extra time, if you're not an essential worker, if you are sitting at home, working from home, or not working at all, use the extra time to do some exercise, because exercise is not only something that makes you more insulin sensitive and improves your immune system, also boosts autophagy, but it also improves your sense of well-being. It helps secrete endorphins, and it also is a calorie burner, as well as establishes cardiovascular fitness. So exercise could be your friends if fasting is just not for you. I have some clients who are thriving on fasting. So I have some clients who are doing our super fasting Monday, Tuesday, and they are finding that because there's temptation at home, that the best thing that they can put into place, that they can control their intake, is to have one rule, and that one rule is not to eat at all. And for some people, that can be very helpful. I will reiterate and say, if you do something like super fasting, or fasting for more like 18 to 24 hours in a row, it might get you either closer to or deeper into ketosis. And ketosis, nutritional ketosis, gives a lot of people a sense of calm. And it might be the fact that your blood sugar is more stable. It might be the fact that the ketones are circulating and signaling and establishing this kind of sense of clearing brain fog and giving you the sense of calm. So again, getting into nutritional ketosis by fasting, for some people, ticks the boxes of creating rules and also helps them feel a little bit calm, which could be an excellent thing to do, particularly if you are finding like you are experiencing or feeling, everyone's feeling unsettled, but if you're feeling very unsettled, that could be something that can help you. Okay, I'll come to metabolism in a minute. Actually, no, I will address metabolism now. So some people think that our metabolism slows down if we fast too much. But again, how much is too much? That's the golden question. It is really all about your goal. If you don't have a lot of body fat to lose, fasting too much can mean, it doesn't necessarily need to mean, but can mean that you decrease or that you lose a little bit of muscle. But for people who are not looking at fasting for weight loss, but they might be fasting for other reasons, might choose to miss some meals, but then make up those calories elsewhere in your day. So remember the two things here. For weight loss, if you're missing a meal, you must really try hard not to make up those calories in the rest of the day, because then the purpose of what you're doing is gone, really, because you're not going to achieve that weight loss if you're making up the calories. If you are doing it for that space and that catabolism time of fasting, and you put those calories in later at a time where you are eating, you can save yourself from reducing muscle and making any kind of detrimental changes to your metabolism. I will say something about metabolism is that whenever you eat, your metabolism is raised, because what your metabolism actually is really all the metabolic processes that are involved in breaking down your food. So when you eat, all your enzymes are working hard to not only mechanically, your mouth and your teeth and everything are working hard to mechanically break down food, but then to chemically digest and absorb food. This requires energy, and it requires metabolic processes to take place. So your metabolism is raised, if you like, when you eat. When you stop eating, your metabolism drops. Normal, natural. When you start eating again, your metabolism raises again. So this is a normal and natural thing that raises and drops. I don't think people need to worry too much about their metabolism being permanently damaged by fasting. As long as you are very clear about what your goal is, why you're doing it, and you're establishing your goals safely and efficiently. And remember, fasting should feel good, and it should enable you to achieve your realistic goals. And as soon as something is a little bit off, if you're not feeling good, if you feel like your energy levels are decreasing rather than increasing, and if you feel that you're losing muscle mass, then it's counterintuitive, and probably not worth your while. Okay, so what I want to say is, I want to finish by giving three scenarios really, where fasting can be used in a lockdown kind of situation. So if you have excess body fat, if you have pre-diabetes, if you have type 2 diabetes, if you have high blood pressure, it's a good time to try some intermittent fasting. You probably know, if you are reading and listening to these evening sessions, you will know that the comorbidities that are associated or strongly related to COVID-19 deaths are those three. So type 2 diabetes, hypertension or high blood pressure, and obesity. So if you have one of those things, your risk is higher than if you don't. So this is really the best time, the perfect time for you to really work on these goals of either putting your diabetes into remission by getting rid of some excess body fat, by dropping some weight, which will have a flow-on effect on dropping blood pressure if you've got hypertension. So I think that if that's you, you should try some fasting. But start low, and go slow. So you might start with, say, missing 2 breakfasts a week and see how that goes. And remember, not making up those calories. See how you go. And if you feel good, and if you quite like the rule, then you can extend that a little bit. Be careful with that sort of black and white attitude of, I feel great missing breakfast once or twice a week. Therefore, if I miss it every day, I'll feel even better. I see a lot of people who go, this is good, therefore double it must be better. And that tends to catch up with them, and it's not always the case. So it's a matter of really being in tune with your body and listening to your body. I know that sounds a little bit fringe, but it is so true. Okay, so for people with comorbidities, with those conditions, those chronic conditions that I mentioned, there's a challenge for you. Let's get some weight off. Let's get that blood sugar nicely controlled with a low-carb diet, eating whole food, and getting some intermittent fasting to bring those insulin levels down. Client number 2, or scenario number 2, if you have been involved in a sport or you have a health-related goal, and of course sport is now all cancelled or just on hold, if you are very disciplined, even if you are not disciplined, you should try and maintain what you are doing to be in the best possible condition that you can be in. Because remember, when we come out of this weird situation, life will resume in some shape or form, and you don't want to go from hero before you got into lockdown to zero when you get out of lockdown. That's going to be very, very counterintuitive and counterproductive to your health goals long term. So if you are well disciplined and you're not a foodie, and you don't really care too much about food, then I would suggest using the 1 meal a day or the super fasting strategy to get that body weight off, and it can be incredibly, incredibly powerful. And the third type of scenario is this: if you are one of those stressy types, and those of you who are stressy types will know who you are. You're probably smiling at the moment. It's okay to put your hand up and say, yes, I'm a stressy, very stressy type. So if you are one of those people, then more advanced fasting is not going to suit you during this time. If you're feeling if your normal stressy personality is now compounded by this uncertainty, stressy of lockdown and what's happening to our world, your cortisol levels are probably sitting a little bit higher than normal. What's going to happen if you do too much fasting is that your cortisol levels are going to be going a lot higher, and that might stress you out to the point that you are going to achieve some negative outcomes from fasting. So I would caution against that. And again, if you're stressy and you do want to do some fasts, again, I would start low, go slow, maybe by missing a breakfast or two, evaluate as you go. And if it feels okay, and again, I'm not saying it's not going to feel okay, but if you tap into ketosis and that makes you feel a little bit more calm, and if you're happy with something that you can control, it's your food intake, then that's absolutely fine, as long as it ticks the boxes of meeting your goals and you're doing it in a safe and sustainable way, then there's nothing wrong with it. And I see some comments here. That's great, Deborah, that real food and 16-hour intermittent fasting has kept me inflammation free during this time. Look, I know I'm coming in with all these cautions about fasting, but fasting is really brilliant. It's really cool. And being in a state of nutritional ketosis, is very, very anti-inflammatory and very good for you. But remember that, that you need to be very clear about how you feel when you do it. And whether or not and how you are achieving your goals as you go. And if you feel good and are getting those goals ticked off and you're doing it safely, then all credit to you. I will say, finally, that there's a very fine line between being kind to yourself and going, oh no, I need not to fast now, I need to eat food, and using lockdown as an excuse to eat terribly. Very, very fine line. And I think it takes real honesty, to say, I'm going to try this, because I have been eating a little bit waywardly and this might be helpful, versus I really need to be eating, not bad food, but I really need to be eating this time. So it's a very fine line. Just make sure your honesty kind of wins that sort of challenge. Okay. Well, this is a long one. Okay. One final personal comment from me. What's happened with my fasting world during lockdown? Well, I had one full day of fasting. That was the day that I had my meltdown and my gut was feeling really tight and I didn't feel like eating at all. So I went a whole day without eating. Yeah, that was fine. The next day I was back to eating. And then on some other days, I've actually been missing breakfast 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days, some weeks, nothing too kind of regimented or rigid. But what I've been enjoying doing is getting a little bit more sleep, getting up and going for either a walk or run or doing some exercise, and then maybe having a coffee or a cup of tea, and then just working until lunchtime. So missing breakfast has been quite easy. And yeah, I'm not planning on doing any lengthy fasts because I just don't want to, really. Okay, so that's me. I will finish by a challenge, okay, by offering you a challenge. I'd like to say that lockdown is a real challenge and a real stress, but it's also an amazing opportunity for some people to come out of it fitter and healthier than they went into it. So that's a challenge for you. I'm not asking you to kill yourselves and suddenly go, running and biking until you are, till you've overdone it, because that's going to suppress your immune system. But the challenge is, let's see if you can come out of lockdown fitter and healthier than before you went in. So good luck with that challenge, and good luck with the rest of lockdown. Be safe and be healthy. And remember, this is going to be with us for a very long time. So it is really important to look after yourselves, look after your bodies, look after each other. Take care. See you again. Bye.